These are my power rankings and Pickems for VCT China, the Stage 2 playoffs. So first up, we're gonna take a look at the map elos by the teams with how they look coming into playoffs, and me giving a bit of context to them, since some of them aren't quite as accurate. Yeah, then afterwards we are gonna do the power rankings and then lastly the pick'ems. So yeah, let's start with the map elo ratings. And here we are. As you can see, Billy and Gilai are the only two teams who have never played Corrode thus far, and Tailu is the only team who has not played Sunset yet. And these are the only teams that haven't played one of the maps. All of the other teams have played them at least once. So if we look at the ELO ratings, we can see the number one team is BLG. I think this is pretty fair. BLG has just been I mean, they've been one of the most consistent teams pretty much all year. They were really good in Stage 1. They did fairly decently at Toronto and have now looked really good in Stage 2, so it makes sense why they're at the top. Then a bit of a surprise, DRG. I think DRG are a bit higher than they should be just because they won against July last week, which was kind of a bit. I mean, we don't quite know how much this actually means, since July was already secured as the number one seed of their group, so you don't know how much they were actually trying, since they probably didn't want to show some new stuff. So that's kind of the context that I would give for these ratings. So I would say probably usually Shilai would be the second highest rated team by the ELO rating after Billy. Then we have here the group of EDG, XLG, and Tai Lu. As I've said before, I think DRG would normally be probably in that group instead of Gilai. I think it's maybe underrating EDG a bit, and Tai Lu is being overrated a bit, since they just won against JDG in last week's match, and they also played a lot of the maps fairly close. That's why I think they're a bit overrated by the ELO rating. Then we have All Gamers, who are also overrated since they won last week. It's kind of a common trend that with the ELO ratings, the last match always has a lot of impact. So yeah, All Gamers kind of a bit high up here, same as Tailu. I'll put them roughly in the same sphere, although I don't have a great grasp on them, but we're gonna talk about that a bit when it comes to the power rankings. And then we've got FPX a bit on their own, then Tech and Trace kind of together in their rating, with Trace obviously losing to Tech, which is why Tech is a bit higher than they should be and why Trace is lower. But yeah, I think Trace for sure showed that they are better than Tech and that they deservedly are going to playoffs and Tech are not, so yeah. And then we've got JDG, Wolves, and Nova. Neither of these teams has performed well at all, so within Stage 2, so it makes sense why they're down here. especially Wolves being this big disappointment. Yeah, we were really expecting more from them. I think all of us, especially with how well they played at Toronto, just an utter collapse by them. Really disappointing, and I think it's a bit of a shame that they still have a really good shot, like a really high probability of still making champions. But yeah, I don't really like the system that Riot Games has chosen with, or that the VC was chosen for the VCT season, with the VCT champion points. And yeah, this could be one of the parts of it that is gonna show this the most at how stupid the system is. But yeah, I think later I'm gonna talk about that a bit more. So now let's head into China power rankings coming into stage 2 playoffs. So here we are, and I think first up, we're gonna start with the teams that didn't make playoffs. So we've got JDG, Nova, Tech, and Wolves. I would still put Wolves at the top of these teams, maybe even C tier. And then I would say JDG has probably been the worst, then Tech, and then Nova. But I mean, you could really change them around in any order that you would like. I don't think there's really too much of a difference. You can really make an argument for any way you want to put it. And I would just put Wolves higher because of what we've seen in Toronto and not what we've seen on stage 2. And because I just think that potential still has to be in there somewhere. And yeah, players like Spring, if they perform, they could still put out really insane performances. So that's why I'm putting Wolves in C tier still. Then next up, I think we will work from the top now again, and I would start off by putting BLG in S tier. I think they're the only team that looked like an S tier team. I feel like the other two teams that have looked really good in XLG and EDG didn't look quite as good as BLG, and yeah, I don't know. I'm really sold on BLG overall. I think YZ has been performing really well, and yeah, I think they've shown that they are kind of a step above XLG and EDG, and I would assume that they win stage 2 China. So then next up in B tier, I will put DRG probably as the fourth team in China, followed by then, and I think they're interchangeable again, FPX and Trace. And I will then put Tailu and All Gamers in C tier. Now, first up with All Gamers and Tailu, I think they've really outperformed. I mean, they've for sure outperformed everyone's expectations coming into stage 2, but I also think that they outperformed their potential kind of. I think they've been better than Wolves, obviously, both of these teams, but I don't think that they are actually better teams. And I think that if we had like a week break now for these teams to reset, and then Wolves would play these two teams, I think Wolves would wreck both of them. That's why I have them here. I'm really not sold on either of these teams. What I've seen, I don't have confidence that they can do anything in playoffs really. But of course they can subvert my expectations yet again and show me that they really are good. So yeah, that's why I would put them in C tier though. And then for FPX Trace, I would put FPX above Trace just because of how strong they've looked at the beginning of stage 2. And I really like Autumn, and I believe that they are for sure a team that could make like a top 3 finish if they hit the ground running in playoffs. But to be honest, all 3 of these teams, that's true for all 3 of these teams, and these teams probably need to make like a third or higher even in FPX's case to make it to champs, which is why they are going to be really hungry and will be performing the best that they can. There will be no slacking off for any of these teams. They'll come in with tons of prep. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting, and I think it's gonna be hard for any of these teams, because if we look at the champions points, we can see, as I've said before, FPX only gets in if they make top 2. That's the only way how they can still qualify for champs. And then based on points, Trace needs to make 4th place to get above Wolves. So if the 3 teams who I think will be the top 3 teams in playoffs as well, in EDG, XLG and BLG, if these 3 teams will all make top 3, then Trace getting 4th, they can overtake Wolves with that, and then would take the 4th spot based on champ points to make it to champions. But with DRG, if they make 4th, they only get 3 points, which would put them up to 9 points, and then they would still not be able to go to champions, and Wolves would go to champions instead, which is really stupid, as I've said before. So DRG, I think they have to make 3rd, and then when it's 3rd, because both them and Wolves have the same amount, I think they win the tiebreaker because they've had a better, because they've performed better in stage 2. But yeah, as I've stated before, I think EDG, XLG and BLG are clearly the top 3 teams within the region. So it's, in my opinion, really hard for any of these 3 teams in Trace, DRG or FPX to make it to get to 3rd or 2nd place. So it's really hard for either DRG or FPX to make it to champs, even if they have a good run in playoffs. And Trace is the only team who has like a realistic spot of realistic chance of making it to champs, with not having to beat one of these 3 teams who just look clearly the best. But yeah, I'm still hoping that DRG can manage to make it with maybe like a 3rd place finish, because I really like the team. I've enjoyed this team within China the most ever since they got into VCT through Ascension last year, and I really like Wuxu, so I'm rooting for DRG. But yeah, now let's head into my Pickems, and there we can talk about some interesting scenarios as well, maybe. So first up, to just recap how I've done thus far in China, I've gone 5-1 in week 1, then 3 and 2, 4, 5, 3 and 5 in week 2, then I've gone 6-2 in week 3, and again 3 and 5 in week 4. So yeah, I just didn't see any of the upsets that were constantly happening. I didn't believe in these teams, and I didn't see them happening, and I was wrong again and again. But yeah, as you can see, that happened to a lot of people. So yeah, now let's get into the playoff bracket, and yeah, let's hope that we get something right here. So first up, EDG against DRG. As I've said before, I think EDG are one of the 3 best teams, so I see them getting the win here. I don't see them going through the lower bracket after the first match. I think they're gonna have a good start into the playoffs. Then All Gamers against Tai Lu, which is kind of the 2 fraudulent teams that I would say. And I think this can go either way. I really don't know like whose teams wins. I would put like higher, who I would rate better out of these 2. I'm just gonna go on my guts, which is telling me that All Gamers is gonna win, but yeah, realistically, could be either of these teams really. Then next up, BLG, I think, have an easy win here, and XLG against EDG could also go either way, pretty much. I would say that XLG wins here because EDG always has a lower bracket run in China, so that's where I'm saying it's gonna start. And then BLG against XLG, I'm gonna go with BLG. As I've said, they look the strongest to me within China. So then FPX are gonna have an easy start in the lower bracket versus the loser of All Gamers or Tai Lu. And yeah, they really need to take advantage of that and like hit the ground running to maybe make a run in playoffs, because they're gonna play the loser of XLG against EDG next, which is gonna be really hard for them to win. But at least when they win that, it paves the way to make a great run in the lower bracket to get to second, to maybe get that champion spot. But yeah, because of where they're placed, I think it's fairly unlikely that FPX are gonna make champs. Then in the other lower bracket, we've got DRG against Trace, and this is a really important match. Whoever gets through here has like their last shot of making it to champs, and both of these teams, or Trace has like a higher probability of making it, since the next game is against All Gamers, and if Trace wins against DRG and then wins against All Gamers, or Tailu if they win against All Gamers and then lose to BLG, so if Trace were to win that, that will mean they make top 4, and then with given that the other 3 teams are BLG, XLG, and EDG, that will mean that Trace has already made champions at this point, which would be really great for them. And yeah, I think that is very likely that it can happen, but I'm still gonna go with DRG. I just like to believe in the team. As I've said before, I really like them and I really enjoy them, and I would love it if they could maybe make a run to go to champs. And I think they have very decent odds of winning this match against Trace. I think it could go either way. Yeah, but I'm still favoring DRG slightly, maybe. Then next up, DRG should win this against All Gamers then. And here EDG should win against FPX. I would then say that EDG continues the lower bracket run against DRG. As I'm editing the video, I've just realized that I've forgotten to talk about that if DRG against EDG plays in that lower bracket spot here, then EDG is already secure to make champions at this point. So maybe there's like the angle of EDG not taking this game as seriously and DRG really taking it seriously because it is their qualification game for champions. So maybe there is like that shot that DRG can win it through that. With EDG not trying as hard and them really trying hard. So I would say there's an outside shot, but just an outside shot of that happening, which would mean DRG being eliminated from playoffs, of course, but also not making champions. And in this case, Wolves would make champions, which again, terrible formatting. But yeah, that is, in my opinion, a very realistic way of playoffs going, and it's a high probability that Wolves are just gonna make it to champions, which would be quite sad with them being eliminated even before getting into playoffs. So yeah, if that were the case, that would mean the end for DRG's season and would mean that they would have to play in Ascension. And if that were the case, I really hope that they get back into Tier 1 because they've been really good last year and this year as well. And yeah, it would be a shame to not have them in VCT Tier 1 next year. But anyways, I would say EDG's lower bracket run continues against XLG, with them getting the second matchup and then finally getting the win over XLG. But then BLG waiting in the finals will then beat EDG with the map veto advantage and them having looked really good all year long. And yeah, that's how I'm gonna pick the playoffs for VCT China Stage 2. And yeah, I'm really interested in seeing how it plays out. I really hope that whatever happens, Wolves don't get to champs based on points. I really hope that that does not happen. I hope the DRG somehow makes it. That would be really exciting. And yeah, I hope I'm right about at least a couple of matches here. And yeah, I wish you guys luck with your Pickems as well. And I'll see you guys next time.